Hi, everybody. This is Patty Toledo. We are back with Creative Raids. I'm really sorry that we had a bit of a hiccup, but Gamescom killed me. I take full responsibility. Gamescom completely killed me. I was AO for a week to try to recover, but now we're back, and I'm back with my girls, Sophia and Charly. Fully helping. I am just a third of a person without them. And today we have Dan Olthen as our guest. And then super welcome for you to be here. And we start as usual. Can you please introduce yourself? Tell your deepest secrets to us here.
Well, thanks for having me, Patty. Coffee first.
Always.
Sponsored by Black Rifle Coffee Company. That makes so yeah, I'm Dan, as you mentioned, and yeah, I'm working in this mirific industry for almost 2 glorious decades. From the very first day as a producer, which over 2 decades kind of like evolved, but also not. Maybe the role evolved, but the perception definitely not. So, just to give a little bit of an overview, I started Gameloft long time ago, back when Java phones were still a thing, and was part of the entire transition to smartphones, handheld devices, consoles. I worked on a few titles: Environmental Mayhem, Terminator Salvation, Command and Conquer, Siberian Twilight, Medal of Honor. Like, just to name a few. Not that it's all at Gameloft, but this was like in those years. After Gameloft, well, according to the titles, I actually went to Electronic Arts. That was a good time. Intense. Oh yeah, it was very intense, but it was a good time. So that, to make it very interesting, happened in Romania. Big studios there. And after EA, I decided to move on and get back to Germany, where I worked for a company called Spellbound Entertainment. At that time, we were working on Hitman Absolution, the crowd system particularly, because Square Enix just commissioned our super genius engineers to do that. The company became later Black Forest Games, quite a good company. They did some nice games. I was not there then anymore because I moved to Berlin. There I opened built a mobile game development department in a company that had until that time only web development, and they wanted to get in that market. So I did that. Then I received a very indecent offer, which I could really not refuse, to be senior producer, I think, senior exec, one of those, on Game of Thrones. That was fun. That was when Game of Thrones was hot. Fun fact, I really could not have cared less about Game of Thrones at that point until I started working for Game of Thrones, and I'm like, maybe I should watch that stuff. I did. I liked it up till, I think, season 5, and then I really lost any kind of interest because it became weird. So after that, somehow life brought me to Poland. In Poland, I worked also on titles. There, I did actually the shift on pretty much mostly, if not exclusively, console PC, like AAA. Got some titles there. Like, oh, that's a long time ago. Shooter, Started my own company. Ran it for about 4.5 years. Also interesting experience. Took a break. Thought about joining or shifting my entire attention to the weapons and defense industry. Didn't find it that interesting, and got back, and now it's like pretty much a sweet spot between video games and cool toys that make boom. I'm working now at Bohemia Interactive in Prague and in Warsaw and pretty much everywhere, but mostly like in the mothership and bouncing here and there on post-apocalyptic game called AZ. And I'm also helping Arma. So there you go, video games and kaboom. It's really, really cool. That's what I'm doing now. And let's see what the future brings, because I also like food. And a food truck sounds more and more attractive the more I look at the world. But yeah.
Well, if anyone had any doubt on why I asked Dan to come, I want to clarify that Dan could easily do a podcast by himself, just telling the experiences of what happened in the last 10, 20 years in all the games that he had worked. We could literally just tell him, like, go ahead, tell us the stories and sit, and he would talk for 20 minutes, and it would be brilliant easily. The easiest guest ever, like, has so much so many stories that we are completely irrelevant in most of the things, but
You
yeah,
are
but that
absolutely not.
and but one thing that I already told Dan that we're gonna bug him a bit is that I I am very interested in the work of a producer, and I have a very personal interest in it as well, because when I started in the games industry, I started as a producer. What I did is my experience with development, and there was a lot of discussions when I though I 10 years ago, about, especially in indie development, of do you need a producer or don't you need a producer? Of course, when you have big projects, everybody knows they need producers. They are extremely important. But still, I
Yeah.
find it funny that for a lot of developers, they go, "Oh no, we can swing it," and it's yeah. You can see that I already don't agree with that, but I wanted to, like, let's just start from the gate. Can you tell us a bit, tell our audience a bit, what is the work of a producer and why is it important? Why shouldn't people be thinking, no, I don't need that?
Okay, so the work of a producer can be absolutely vital as much as it can be completely irrelevant. As much as the definition of the role of a producer. Um, I have a good friend, Fleur Marty. We met while she was working as a senior producer, I believe, at Eidos, Montreal. Um, she was then executive producer at Warner Brothers on, I think, Gotham Knights. If I don't screw up the title again, I'm so sorry, but anyway. And she had a T-shirt. I think the second day when we met at Gamescom, that said producer, because 24/7 multitasking ninja is not a job, not an official job title. So I was like, all right, that fits very well. However, it should not. And I spoke about pretty much my beginnings. So there's a fun story about me becoming a producer, because I never actually wanted to be a producer. At Gameloft, that was the beginning of this millennium. I applied as a game designer because, even junior game designer, I think, but it's not relevant right now. What game design? So I applied, I did the tests, all the la-di-da 9 yards, and then they invited me for an interview, like, the regular 45 minutes interview. So I went there, and it was like 8.5 hours. All good?
Yeah, all good.
8.5 hours later, it was like, Dan, but because that's the name of the person who hired me into this fabulous industry. I'm like, how about we take a break, because I really need to go to the toilet and I want to smoke a cigarette. And he's like, holy crap. It's been a day. So, what about that? Why didn't you tell me that you're a smoker anyway? I'm like, you'd never asked. Flash forward, he brings a colleague to the smokers room. We're standing there, and it's like, yeah, please meet Paul. Paul, this is Dan. Would you please consider a proposition that we have, like, to me? It's like, that's me. So we were talking about you, and we're talking about your experience, because I wasn't always in the gaming industry. I was a youngling, so I did design marketing. Ended up as a marketing director. I have no idea what was in their heads, but apparently I did some things right there, and was running Eastern Europe for a retail company. Like the whole Shazam, with campaigns, with dealing governments and media outlets and all that stuff. So apparently that was relevant to them because they were like, yeah, you can manage things. Would you like to be a producer? And I was like, I have to think about that. That was quite impressive for them. That's what Dan told me later on. Like, oh yeah, you seem so cerebral and so incredibly pragmatic. That was great. That's what we were looking for in a producer. We were quite impressed. I was like, well, I hate to burst your bubble, but I had to think about it because I will not use foul language, but I had no idea what a producer is. I don't know. What's a person in game development? I mean, why would you need that? Yeah. Fast forward, as a producer at Gameloft and Ubisoft, at that time you were a project manager. And sometimes what I would have considered a slave driver, a very terrible person that I would have hated. I myself was not that. I was more like the idiot that was literally just burning himself out, still holding the record, or no, held the record for many years of consecutive hours spent at the studio, which was like 76 hours in a
Wow.
piece. So I slept on the desk, well, head on the desk, and also took the showers there because, hey, nice facilities. They have showers. Good stuff. But this is pretty much like a sense of responsibility for the team. We were working at that point on Terminator Salvation. Time to market games. I love them. That was pretty much my stigma from the beginning. And yeah, I feel responsible for my people. And, you know, the producer is the person that protects the team. Unlike others who are the producer is the big boss, which is not so much. But anyway, depending on the company and circumstances. So that was that. Then I had pretty much like the epiphany of an experience at Electronic Arts, because suddenly those people come in and they're like, well, let's show you some structure and how the modern world does it, and definitely not how those savages, the French, are doing. I'm like, all right, so I'm curious, let's have a look at that. And they didn't overpromise. Like, to be honest, I'm looking back my career, and my dearest years, like as an employee, are with Electronic Arts. Like, the company was great to me. I learned incredibly many things. It was a really, really good time. And I would never want to miss that. No matter what people say about EA, but they say the same about Ubisoft, Activision, and all the others. So you'll always have the haters. I don't care. But EA showed me and, well, my colleagues what producers are doing and what they're not doing. Whereas producers are responsible for the vision, for keeping the vision mostly, like on a product level, not the creative vision, different things. But they have pretty much their raison d'etre, to go still French. Like, they have their justification of keeping the things together inside, like motivate the team, take care that everything's going into the right direction, pushing the boundaries, trying to get the best product out there that exists, while juggling about 20 to 22 cats that have rabies, are extremely angry, hungry, and their claws are made of titanium, kind of like that. Meaning you're handling your team, but you're handling the stakeholders, you handle eventually like marketing, you handle finances because they're breathing down your neck for reasons that, whatever, you handle everything there. And then, and this is the most important part, because a producer is considered, yeah, you run that show, or we don't need you anyway, which is, again, sometimes it can work. But you have to be extremely, I would even go that far to say, controlled schizophrenic to have those two roles in your own brain, because the producer is pushing the boundaries. I want to achieve more. We can do more. Then there's a development manager. Ta-da, surprise. Which would be the equivalent of a project manager. I really don't want to go into this whole Scrum Master thing because
Oh God, yeah, no.
Yeah.
because I hate that. That was like the stupidest trend. The industry did not understand the idea of Scrum. I heard Ken Schwaber, one of the people that, I think it was Ken Schwaber, right? I'm not sure if I pronounced the name right, so I'm very sorry for that. It was like, it's a tool set. You will not use a sledgehammer instead of a screwdriver to put in a screw. So you do not have to use everything that's in this toolbox. Use it in your own accord and use your brain. So pretty much Scrum is like, all the books are broken down explanations for how to use common sense and not be an idiot. That's pretty much it. Getting back to that, producer, development manager, whatever kind of system they're using. All right, so that works. It works because you have your counterpart, you discuss what you want to have, you fight, but constructive fights, right?
Mm-hmm.
You say as a producer, I want to achieve this. I want to have these cool features because, hey, there's marketing, there's finance. There are the players mostly. Like, forget all that other crap, but the players, they expect something cool. And then the development manager tells you, like, okay, we can do some of those things because A, we do not have enough people. B, we do not have enough time. C, well, we're probably also tired and want to go home at some point, right? So either you can summon a bazillion whatever currency you want to insert here, and then we can hire more people, get more time, or whatnot. Or we get much more time, then we can kind of stretch it and it's okay. Or we just call it quits and we will decide which goes in and which goes out. So you have to have this healthy conversation. Now, let's get to today's times. Fun. There are still companies that operate on the basis that they do not believe in planning and production. That was a dramatic pause. Like, seriously, it's one of my favorite words, and this really applies very well to the situation, is flabbergasting. Because this is goddamn freaking flabbergasting. Oh no, we do not believe in planning. Like, you have a company that has multiple hundred people employed. You have some products that are running, and you want to run more products. You don't believe in a 5-year slate, like what you want to release, what you want to develop. Yeah, no, because the industry is changing a lot. And you would be surprised how many companies are talking like this. Luckily, this comes more from a level that is not directly involved with development or different cultural background or something else. Whereas if you look into that, you kind of understand it. It's more like, hey, back then when I started the whole show, it was just me and my 5 friends in the garage, and we did something amazing. We didn't need all that. We scribbled something down, and it's like, this mindset is good. It's healthy. But in order to make this work, you need a structure, and that's why those companies have those multi-hundred people, which, by the way, I think I just invented a word, but I like the sound of it. Multi-hundred. Because there is a buffer. There are people that can transform this whole, we don't need all that planning crap, into, yes, of course we need that, but we get the essence out of that. So we need the whole creative drive, and then we pretty much translate it into the teams. Guess how those people are called? Producers.
Yep.
So pretty much as a producer, you're everything. Like, you're the coffee person, you're a nanny, you're a shrink, you're a financial advisor. You are a bitch, because sometimes you just gotta be a bitch. You're everything and nothing. And that's why people are like, oh my God, it's so confusing what they're doing. But producers are, like, in an ideal world, which of course the world is not ideal, but this is where I would throw producers in that have, like, the notion of, I'm talking to people and we're doing things for other people. We respect our players because they are putting their hard-earned money, especially nowadays, into a product that we promise them will give them entertainment, some escapism, something to fulfill their needs. So we have to respect this. That's why I just learned yesterday that there's somewhat of a poop storm around Larian. And I'm like, wait, what? Why? Because it's preposterous. Larian, they didn't make a game that bleeds the players out. What is that? this industry cannot operate like this. I'm like, so wait, the industry is making a fuzz about Larian that showed the industry that, hey, if you make a really good game, people will just buy it and it will be successful. So you don't have to put all those Skinner boxes in there. You don't have to squeeze 99 cents every half a minute out of them. You can actually make good games. And listen to that and hear me out. It's a crazy concept, but finished games. And I laughed. I was like, oh my, yeah, no, that's pretty cool. So yeah, there you go. They understand how important it is. And this is what producers should do. They should be the voice of the outside world towards the development team and vice versa. So call them funnels, if you will. But it's really difficult, and that's also something that I learned over the years, being on all sides of it, like hiring them, unfortunately letting them go, sometimes very necessarily letting them go, being in the position of all of it, it's really difficult to find the right person, because people underestimate the importance of a producer not just being full of hard skills, but mostly full of soft skills, understanding the team and clicking with the team, and also understanding the players. Like, pretty much as a producer, you have to understand everyone. It's like a little bit of being Gandhi, but not so peaceful. It's like, even though reading into history a little bit, Gandhi was also not necessarily the most peaceful person that has been described. So yeah, a little Gandhi and a little shrink. That's pretty much it. It's so hard to describe. As you see, I'm doing this for 2 decades, and every time there's like a new project that I'm working on, even either as a consultant or starting my own company or working on a project, it's like, you gotta be just everything. You have to adapt. And the thing is, you will get all the blame if stuff goes completely sideways. It's like designated scapegoats too. It's also cool. So I hope that kind of answers that. I hope that whoever
That was a
watches,
really good explanation, like very thorough,
yeah,
and also was good because you also covered the evolution depending on the size of the team and the kind of projects. I like that very much. Girls, do you have questions? Otherwise, I have a few.
Yeah, I mean, interestingly, one of my friends has an indie studio, and they, I think about last year, they hired a producer, best producer they have ever had. No game experience whatsoever, but he used to be a football coach.
there
And
we
those
go.
skills transferred so well that everyone else was like, so you don't need game experience to be a producer. But I guess you understand how the skills of a football coach transfer so well to the role that you have.
Yep. It does help to understand the industry and be somewhat familiar with video games, because we have a very particular lingo in our industry, and we have our very particular humor, etc. This is something that is more like an acquired knowledge. It's not really a prerequisite, but having the character and the understanding of, okay, how a team operates, how things work together, and not just the team, because people kind of confuse the thing and say, a producer is very team centric. No, it's not. As a good producer, you look at everything, every possible influence on the outcome. The outcome is a great game, right? Then that great game will have an impact on the world. So that's where a football coach comes in very well, or any kind of person who had, well, a coaching or leadership position, more a coaching position in something that relates to a team. So it's just brilliant. I use a lot of military knowledge, background, etc., for how I apply some conflict resolution or some team management or motivation. Because sometimes people just have to blow off steam. We're human beings in the end. So that's why I'm also very keen on not walking on eggshells when it comes to that. I'm like, yeah, we talk freely, but I'm also not a big fan of, yeah, let's beat around the bush. Let's say things the way they are and get things done, because ultimately we have a common goal. And if that is not there, like if individuals in the team do not share the common goal, then we do have a problem. And then this has to be addressed. Because without the common goal, without the common vision, things go sideways. And this is actually one of the biggest problems in the industry. The bigger the project is, if you have like between 200 and 800 people working on a project, and most of the times in different locations, just do a little survey and you will have around 600 different opinions of what the game is going to be. And that's also like very relevant for a producer. And again, you have to think about that, and coach thinks about those things. So good for them.
Oh yeah, they're super happy. Now they're firing everyone, just hiring sports people.
I suppose one thing I want to ask is, because I work with a lot of small indies, teams of less than 6, they probably don't have the budget to employ a dedicated producer. So, I mean, what kind of, at least not yet, I mean, because sometimes you see them and you think, if you've got money to spend, you might be needing like a dedicated artist or something like that first to get the game into a certain position. But to indie teams like that, and maybe there are only 2 or 3 people, like, what kind of advice would you give them, lessons that they can implement as, like, say, someone at the top? The skills that as a producer, what kind of things can they leverage to sort of get them to, to grow their studio and to make themselves successful?
Okay. I had this conversation a few times so far, because I used to also teach games production and game business in Finland, Kajana. So in this situation, I would literally tell them, like, produce yourself, which means if you are a few people, let's say 4, it's a 4-people team, right? There's the camera. Everyone is good at something. You have to know, okay, what do we have to cover in terms of being operational? Do we have to take care of our finances? Is there something that's, we have to look into and have an eye on finance, legal? Get your operations straight. Cover that and see if you can just distribute it amongst yourself. And then move forward. Okay, who's a person that brings the fun into it? Usually there is always a person that brings in the spirit to make like, woohoo, yay, let's get shit. Then build some AI work. Something like that. So you need this person too. Like, humans kind of get into this groove and form those groups without actively knowing it. But someone has to take pretty much take the wheel and say, okay, I'm looking into what our team setup is. We have a conversation and we designate some roles. And we try this out and we rotate. We see who likes to do whatever has to be done. Very important. It's the stuff that has to be done. And whoever likes it the best and is the best at that. Sometimes those things do not overlap. And usually then if you have the common goal, which is like, hey, we want to make a game or we want to build a studio, it's a pragmatic decision to say, okay, I don't like it, but I'm the best at that. So yes, I will take this onto my plate and I will operate with that. Now, it is so cheesy because it's continuously repeated, but it's really continuously repeated because it's the biggest fuck up all the time, no matter of the size of the team. It's like, talk.
Yeah.
And Patty, again, my apologies, probably that's like a PG 16.
Oh no, go ahead. We say bad words all the time. Yeah.
I need to, for fuck's sake, get your shit straight. Talk. Please talk and put things on the goddamn walls. Like, another thing I learned at EA, there was like this whole thing, and it's becoming bigger and more relevant now, like 10, 13 years after that. So it evolved. It's called employee branding. Like, communicate your philosophy wherever you can. Make it a unit, because only when you're in a unit and you have this whole common goal and you pretty much do it like a mantra, then you will get there, because it gets subconscious. It's like, it works. That stuff really works. And they did it amazingly well. Now, flash forward, small team. Well, do it on a budget if you do not have the money. If you have the money, well, go wild. Rent a goddamn house on the fucking Riviera, make it a studio, and just, go outside, stretch a little, have a coffee, see the sunrise, sunset, whatever, do some cocktails and work. Awesome. If you do have the dough, go for it. I'm happy for you. If not, I don't know, make posters. People are creative. Like, do it yourself, but make it an environment that allows you to see the same direction, because this is, in my opinion, in my experience, the most essential thing. You have to define the goal, what you want. And everyone has to agree on it and be happy with that, or accept it. Happiness is kind of like a volatile thing. Accept that thing and then let it roll. So designate the roles, producer yourself if you do not have the money for a producer. Ideal at some point, if you start to get to the level that, okay, we actually have to communicate to the outside world. We have to get like a publisher. We have to do something. And you maybe want to get someone in, which ideally could also be a producer, because that is part of a producer's job, no matter what people will tell you. Because, of course, there has to be, you can call a business developer, all part of a producer job. Like, producer is pretty much like a CEO that has to do everything, but it's not the CEO salary, kind of like that. Yeah, I'm saying that jokingly, but I have been that too. So true. Organize yourselves, communicate a lot, designate roles, and most importantly, have a common goal. Like, this is what I would tell people, and you know what? If they're really cool and really nice, I would just help them pro bono, for fuck's sake, because why the hell not? We help each other out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can focus on money, but money is just a trap. So if you do good stuff and you can just, squeeze a little time to help others, I would do that. So yeah.
I told that we always explode the time easy. Just so you can see that. But I wanted to ask one last question before we go, because I think it's important. Is because producers have so many micro roles into this big role and have to do so many things, wear so many rats. No, they don't wear rats. They wear hats. How would you advise them to make sure that they don't burn out, they don't stretch themselves thin? Like, how do
Don't
they
take on
keep
too
the
much of
balance on
responsibility.
that so that they can do well but not be overwhelmed? And in the end, if they are overwhelmed, it might impact the product, it impacts the relationships. Like, how can they avoid this trap?
So that is a brilliant question, and I love this question because I would have loved to hear the answer that I'm about to give you more often or at all in the past. So, as someone who took a break because ultimately I paid the price for this whole producing with barely seeing my kids when they grew up. Well, they're still growing anyway. And having a heart attack for work reasons. Then you start to reconsider your life. And here's the thing. We're making video games. And whoever watches that, whatever you take out of this entire thing, we're making video games. Let that sink. No life depends on that. No life. Whoever puts pressure on that is either a hater or, worse, the top management that gets the pressure either from the investors, who most of them are just pure evil, or getting back, greedy people. No one else puts pressure. The trick is literally do not give a shit. You can find another job. I know it's so easy to say, but it is. Life goes on. Find another job. Do something aside, whatever it takes, but do not kill yourself, because there's a fun thing. Money you can make, you cannot make, whatever it is. But it's very flexible in your wallet. Time, all those minutes that now have passed, all the things that I have said, they're past. They will never come back, ever again. That's it. So you're giving your time, your life, your health, moments that you could have spent relaxing, loving, having fun, seeing your family or seeing yourself or whatnot, and you get money in exchange. Money that then you pay taxes for, which you're like, where the hell are those going? You pay for overpriced food, you pay for bullshit that you do not really need.
Mhm.
So that's one part. Of course, you do have responsibilities. I do not disregard that. I understand the necessity because we live in a screwed up world and that's how it is. Some change will happen or not. But if you're not there and you're dead, then you help no one. So that's the thing. In a nutshell, don't give a fuck. That's it. And I mean it. I seriously mean it. It's video games, not brain surgery, not heart surgery. You're not saving lives. You're not doing something that is really essential and really important for someone's existence. You're bringing entertainment. If you want to bring good entertainment, you have to take your time. You have to be healthy in your mind. You have to be good yourself to bring good entertainment. Burning people out, that's a wrong place to be. And then just go somewhere else. Because you cannot bring happiness if you're extremely miserable inside yourself. People will feel that. And what about you? You will feel it.
Yep.
You will not like it. You will hate it. And that's not the idea of it. So, yeah, I've been there. I burned out a few times. I hated my life. I hated the industry. I hated pretty much everything. Like, I'm not talking out of theory. I'm talking about things that I lived through. And my conclusion is it's just not goddamn fucking worth it. And I'm sorry to say it like this bluntly, but I'm quite emotional about this because it's just not worth it. Someone else's profit. And if it's your company, well, think about it. Still take a deep breath. If it's not working out, it's not working out. Or my advice is, again, something that I would have loved to hear is like, talk to your friends, talk to people that can give you different perspectives because it's a different thing. It's somehow being a producer, but a bit more when you have your own indie studio. And I know the worries, and I feel it. Publishers telling you, yeah, we like your product, and we do have the money, but we feel it's like a little too risky or too nichey or whatever. It's like, yeah, I know that. Getting all the, nah, thanks, you're great, but still no thanks letters. I know all that. Then again, pivot. Talk to people that can help you, can give you new perspectives, because ultimately everyone takes their own decisions, right? Sometimes things that just don't work out because it's not the time, because, damn it, it's not working out, and that's it. But you can make it work out. Just, again, talk to people that you trust. Reach out to people. Try to get the positivity, because that's the great thing about our industry. There's a lot of positivity in there. There's a lot of, craziness and acceptance and colors and all this good stuff. It is there. Even if it looks like shit, it's still there. And yeah, wow, I feel like I should have had like any kind of fucking flag behind me.
Yeah.
I'm emotional about this because, yeah, it's something that was part of my experience until a few years ago, where I just, I needed that. I needed almost to die. I needed to look into my kids' eyes and realize, like, hey, I didn't spend the first 4 years of your lives as much with you as I wanted to. I screwed up my health. I wanted to actually die. I felt worthless. I wanted to really die multiple times. Been there, done that. And for what? For a goddamn company? I can build like 100 companies. I don't care. Companies are not that complicated to build. Like, seriously. You don't need bazillions. You need just a paper and a few $100. So, yeah, ta-da, you have a company. Then now do. Yeah.
For what is worth, I'm very happy you didn't. We love you.
Yeah.
You are one of my dearest friends, and I'm really happy you
I
survived.
love you too.
But the other thing I wanted to say is that you raised something, and I know we explode time, but you raised something that is the other side of the coin that I think it's important, and I wanted to raise this. That is, if we want to build a gaming industry that is not abusive, that it's not overwhelming, of companies that are respecting their employees and giving them the proper time and the proper payment and the proper treatment in everything. We have to demand that. And if we don't do what you just said, they say, hey, if it's not worth it, if it's not for you, walk away. The companies will continue exploring people and will continue pushing and pushing and pushing. Like, we need to put the limits to what we can and cannot do, or want and what don't want to do. So the companies will be forced to also do that. And I wanted to finish this with saying, if you are a youngster in this industry, it's your responsibility to grow into this industry in a way that you will become the leader that will reinforce this to the next generations as well. Because if you are brought in the industry by people that are exploitative, you have you cannot be the next generation of exploitative. You have to be the driver of the change on that as well. Otherwise, it will never get better, right?
Yes. There is one thing though, looking back, like retrospectively, I'm grateful for every job, even the shitty ones that I had. And I had a few because, well, happens.
Yeah, all of us.
Let's put it this way. My experiences at Gameloft were, well, that was pure exploitation. From my perspective, not for everyone, again. But that was the time back then. Because it was like, oh yeah, young creative minds. Like, from today's angle, it would have been like, oh my God, that is exploitation. That is, like I called it, like slave driving. That was a wording that was used quite a lot amongst the people that worked there or still work there. And look at me now. It's like, it's part of an experience. And also those companies, they go through phases. Like, they go through phases. Every company at some point could touch the level of, yeah, I'm exploiting my people. Not because it's like, oh, I'm exploiting them, more like, oh, we can do more. I like to give the benefit of the doubt, because there's so much hate out there. There's so much, oh yeah, they're so bad. Of course, they're bad and crappy managers or bad and crappy investors. Most of them are. Anyway, that's my opinion. No, it's like, I spoke to so many, and at one point or the other, it's like, oh yeah, we care about our profit more than about anything else, so we don't give a shit about you. But it depends on how deep you have to dig into that. But ultimately, that was like my conclusion. I would love to be convinced otherwise, but so far not. So there is hope, but very little in my head. Now, change is very important. And like you said, as a young or fresh man, woman, person, individual, bar stool in this industry, you are responsible for something. But take it easy. You are not so responsible for everything, because again, you're fresh there. Just make your goddamn mistakes. Feel some pressure. Feel that, because it's not bad. If people forget how it is to be under massive pressure, to feel some injustice, they take all the justice and all the shits and giggles as the status quo. It's not that. They become oblivious to the balance of nature. And that's something that I'm very, very careful with. Like, the whole thing, I don't want to pamper people. It's not about pampering them or, oh my God, I offended you. I don't give a shit if I've offended you. If I didn't offend you, then probably I didn't know something wrong in my just didn't offend enough. I don't care about those things, but I care about mutual respect. I care about correctness and integrity. Those things don't mean like, oh my God, I have to walk on eggshells. Like I said before, I do not walk on eggshells. I don't care if I offend someone. If someone is offended, okay, if you have real reason to be offended, real pragmatic reason, like brainy reason, not, oh my God, the weather is there. I'm not whatever the generations are now called, because I just kept counting and putting attention to what alphabet or number it's used. I was like, those snowflakey things, I don't care about them. It's like, are you competent? And are you a good person? This is literally like my graph. It's like, okay, competent, great person, wonderful. Incompetent, great person, what a shame. Love to have you around, but not to have you work for me. Competent asshole, no. I will use you for a specific thing, and I'm happy to exploit you if it comes to that, because you're exploiting me. You will be with me on this particular time as long as it's good for you. The money's good, the IP is great, and then you will just bounce. So you're just a mercenary. And then there are like those incompetent and assholes. Well, these people, I don't care what they are, who they are, and where they come from, and all that stuff. Incompetent and asshole just doesn't fly. Thanks. Bye. And doing some self-reflection as a youngster. Okay, where am I now? Where do I want to be? And why do I want to be that? And reevaluate all the time. Not burning yourself out, of course not. Burn yourself out a few times, just a little bit for fun. But don't burn yourself out like burnout, because that's not fun. And respect. Like integrity and respect goes an extreme long way. These are the values that are saying. These are the things that, yeah, some people might hate you for that because you have integrity and you respectfully, but you're not bending over backwards. You're not trying to, oh my God, that's not step on anyone's feet. So keep your identity. Don't just, float around. And that's what a lot of people do. And this is like the change where I'm like, okay, yes, we can change things, but we also have to cut companies slack. It's like really the balance. If there's a thing that I really believe in and I observed in my 40 plus years of existence on this planet, is that everything has some natural balance. Like everything falls always into balance. Like it goes from one extreme to the other extreme, but ultimately the goal is like it gets into the balanced state. So there's good and there's evil. There's blah and blah. Always the same thing. It's like this wisdom is older than stones. However, people tend to forget that. Now everything is like going into one direction. Next week, probably everything changes and goes into the other direction. I was making fun of it 10 years ago already. Like, oh yeah, which company will get it this year? Who will be the scandal reason? Ubisoft? No, we had them okay 2 years ago. Maybe it's Activision. Maybe it's those. Maybe, oh no, we have to have a new contender. This is always the same thing because we're making also entertainment. We entertain the entertainers pretty much, right? So,
Right.
God damn it, I like to talk to you. I like my voice. Jesus Christ, I realize.
No, I'm good.
You know how to press the buttons here in my brain. Like, oh yeah, let's get Dan talk.
Dan, thank you so much. This was awesome. Thank you. And thank you, girls. Sorry that I'm sorry I have to finish this, but it was absolutely awesome. We have to bring you more often to just chat with us. Right?
Please
We need to,
both.
yeah, we need to do another podcast just to have the conversation because you guys didn't listen before we started recording. We were talking about airports. We're gonna have a podcast just about the
Weekend
airports.
special.
Yes, a special one just about the airports. But I
Bonus
will.
quest.
Dan, thank you so much. This was absolutely lovely. And as I said, you're always welcome here. Girls, again, thank you so much for the help today. And we will be back soon. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
So,